Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Curie Media Marketing Podcast. Today, we have with us Adam Shaw. Adam Shaw, please give us a true introduction of yourself.
Hi, my name is Adam Shaw. I'm the head of demand gen at IntentWise, where we sell a SaaS platform for e-commerce professionals to increase their marketing on retail media.
That's great. We would love to hear more about how you started and your journey.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just start, back in college. So I got involved in marketing in college. I swam for 3 years, 1 year at University of Hawaii, 2 years at Kentucky, and decided to get an internship in the communication space and the political landscape. And then I started my career after college in political advertising. Was in that for a few years, went to ad sales kind of at the start of the connected TV boom. Then I started my own agency. That was an interesting story that lasted for about 7 months. We can get into that a little bit further before I went back into traditional television, radio, kind of billboard media, moved into direct to consumer, and now I'm in B2B SaaS.
Okay, amazing. So I would love to hear what made you transition through these phases, like from the television to direct to consumer, now to SaaS.
Yeah, I think it just kind of happened that way, right? So when I got into ad sales, which was my second job out of college, connected TV was starting to become really popular for brands to be on, and most brands that were on it were direct to consumer. So I kind of just did what the market was telling me and say, okay, look, we know that direct to consumer like to have really clear attribution from when somebody sees a TV ad to when they call the phone or go online. And connected TV did that for them, and not a lot of the old school direct to consumer marketers were super aware of what was going on in connected TV. And at this time, connected TV was like $60-$70 cost per thousand and CPM, and it was just nuts. So we'd go out and you'd sell $500,000 a month deals and to huge companies, and nobody had any idea what exactly they were doing. And it really, we didn't know a ton about what we were doing either, right? We were just like, okay, we have connected TV, we can sell it. Let's go see if we can put together some pretty good packages. And it worked out really well. So, and then that's how I kind of got into my own agency, as I made some good money in ad sales and jumped ship and said, let's do my own thing.
Yeah. So when you were doing television advertisements, there was a lot more money to be made where you are currently right now, or?
Yeah, so there was more. I wouldn't say there's more money to be made in it when it was first coming out. It was just that nobody was going after it. So, it was a smaller pop, but so few ad tech people were really focusing on connected TV, unless you're really kind of into it. This was like 2017. So people were starting to get. One thing that you would notice is that Hulu, if you had to Hulu in 2015, 16, 17, you'd see, the same ad 50 times from Volvo and Unilever, really, really big companies. So at this time was kind of when we were able to get smaller companies on the connected TV for a little bit more of a manageable price. And, I just attacked that head on and said, all right, that's the new piece of it. It's the attribution is really good, which is what people in direct to consumer are really obsessed with these days. And back then as well, it just made a lot of sense to kind of go in that direction. The market was going there. So I followed along.
Yeah. I think the reason why I laughed when you said Hulu in 2015. I remember it was 2015. What I was doing 7 years ago. I was 11 years old. So it's just funny to bring on this guest like you, who are way older than what I am, because I'm freaking 19. And they're telling me all these stories in 2013, 2012. 2012, I was playing in the playground. That's so funny to visualize the amount of
I work with
that I don't have.
Yeah, I totally get that, because I work with a guy who's probably about 25, 30 years older than me. And he was, really around at the early 2000s when he was getting his kind of big start into the ad world, when, DSPs were starting to become, something, when people were in the trade desk was starting to come around, and, talking to him. And that's kind of, where we're going with the retail media and where I am in now. But it was kind of at that point where we're just seeing search advertising come out, and DSPs for brands to go and purchase, across publisher networks. And that was kind of what we were doing in connected TV at that time too, is where we're just all right, let's see how many publisher networks we can go and get to be part of the, part of the package. We were always trying to figure out how do we keep the cost down, and we would all agree on these publisher packages. And it turns out that they're kind of, a lot of them were kind of duping you, and they would be selling kind of similar to early DSPs, where they would just be selling spots on like dog.tv, and people weren't actually watching it. They were just leaving it on for their dogs when they were out of the house. And so there weren't really any real impressions going. But yeah, it is kind of cool, like listening to what some of the like older folks in the industry have to say about, this huge thing that happened in, 20 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever it might be. Cause you don't really think about that a lot. Like, hey, TV advertising is just another thing now, you don't really think twice about it. It's part of every major brand's, strategy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like for the marketers out there who are the first movers, let's say, and they find underpriced attention first, and they start speaking about like that platform, let's say, let's call it for now TikTok. And then after a few years, it's like everywhere, like TikTok is a place, TikTok is a place. Then it's so funny hearing that, okay, first of all, you guys are stupid. I was saying this a few years ago. And second of all, why the frick didn't you listen to me? But third of all, like, it's cool just hearing like with your own self that, okay, at least I was right. At least I was right.
Yeah. And you have to kind of, you have to just kind of go into things sometimes, not really sure. I'm lucky. I've worked at like usually medium or smaller size companies and agencies for my whole career. So it's really easy to just jump on new stuff, right? You don't have like a big board that you have to go up to and say, hey, let's go on TikTok. And then a month later you get, okay, it's let's just go do it. Whether it's TikTok or like LinkedIn, when that was starting to become really big, just jump in and do it. And one thing I always tell my people, it's like, guys, just go and do it. Some of these things you don't even have to be good at. Like these days you have to be good at LinkedIn. Like you can't just be posting junk and expect to get stuff back. But like TikTok, especially in the B2B space, like you don't even have to be good at it. You just have to be there,
Yeah, but right now it's starting to get a lot more competitive real fast, like really, really fast. You go on TikTok, you spend like 30 minutes and it's playing like, and it's like, where am I? What have I been doing for the past 30 minutes? Why did I sleep on my bed at 1 p.m.? Now it's 3 p.m. How exactly did I waste 2 hours of my time? And that's just funny because, people are slow at moving. And back to your point where you said that you're lucky that you work with small to medium companies. For the past few weeks, I wanted to grow more my company and stuff and to get on larger clients with a bigger monthly budget. But I have like a few clients where they're pretty large and I don't like it. I don't like it because there's too many rules. Like I don't want to spend all my time thinking about, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? It's like with small to medium sized businesses, like, okay, you did this mistake, especially with small business. Okay, you did this mistake, don't do it again. And then that's it. They're more chill. So big business.
Yeah, one thing I always tell folks is I've been in the agency. I used to be in the agency world for a long time. That was most of my career. In fact, I only recently got out of it to go on the brand side. And something I always say is, find kind of what it is that you do. Companies will come to you or you go to them and you say, hey, here's what I do. Here's how I handle it. If you don't like that, then we're not going to work well together. Here's a list of agencies I think that you might be able to work well with. And I've done that a lot, right? So like, we've done it with, when I was agency, I did it with anywhere between like Fortune 500 companies to like Fortune 10 companies, where it's just like, hey guys, like you guys aren't going to be successful with us, with that kind of, and that's okay. Like every company isn't going to be the right client for you, because realistically, all you need to be a successful agency is like 10 good clients. And if you have 10 clients spending $1 million a month and making $120 million a year, that's a real lot of revenue. And $1 million a month isn't a huge budget, right? Like that's the type of people who can pivot really fast, but also have like the really great ability to get behind what they're pivoting to. But yeah, that's one thing is don't ever take clients just because they have big money. Take clients that are good for you because you're going to do better.
Yeah, I think people think short term because so many people get into this just to sell the company in a few years. They get into the mindset of like, okay, I'm going to sell my company in a few years for like 50 million or like 5 million or something. I'm like, and I am never going to have to work ever in my entire life. They get into it with this mindset and they see these big deals with like this huge amount of money. And they're like, okay, who cares? I'm just going to do what they're going to tell me to do. Who cares if they do well or not? But yeah, fine. But if you're thinking about long term and you're trying to build a big business, then you care about like your reputation, you care about the results that you generate and the testimonials, and like you took them from like 100 million to 500 million in like, I don't know, 10 years, let's say.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yep.
people
It's
underestimate
all
that.
about finding the people who kind of like share your ideals to some degree. Yeah, like, and you want to be able to show off, right? It's kind of I've been in so many situations where I have a big company with a big budget where we have to do what they say just because it's almost like the cart is leading the horse a little bit, right? And you don't want to have to deal with that.
So I heard, Anya, I'm sure you know that LinkedIn is in a place where it has significant amount of organic reach, and you can reach your next potential high-paying customer through LinkedIn. But I think the problem is, and I could be wrong, this is why I'm asking you, is that there's so many marketers trying to reach the same client that it's, I think it's not even worth chasing that client on LinkedIn. Sure, I think you should focus on keywords and industries on LinkedIn, like maybe search like food or photography or art. Like those industries who like CEOs are in those keywords that marketers are not even like searching for, because there's so many marketers searching for like CEO, founder, startup, anything else. So it's impossible to reach that client, because let's say that client goes on LinkedIn, approves the first connection, and that first connection says like, hey, love your content. They say, thanks. Can you buy my course for $50 per month? That client's trust is destroyed. He will not open up to another connection request for the next month. And if there's so many people onto LinkedIn, then this is a problem. I would like to see like if I'm completely wrong about this.
I think it's because there's a lot of that old kind of look of like LinkedIn is just for sales. Back when I was using LinkedIn, literally just to sales, I would connect with somebody and do exactly what you just said. Connect, hey, I'm selling this really cool thing, come buy it. And it worked, but this was a long time ago, right? This doesn't work that way anymore. I think what a lot of, especially, the B2B sellers are trying to do is educate and just be part of the community of buyers and potential customers, and really like not even just your buyers, just the whole community that surrounds them, right? So let them come to you. It's again, it's demand generation versus demand capture. And if you are focusing on demand capture but not doing any demand generation, you're going to have a tough time, because there's no reason for somebody to want to talk to you, right? Like if you look at my LinkedIn or others who are really focused on just kind of talking about things they like, you won't really see me telling anybody to buy any. I just think it's really cool. But I get messages every day about, hey, can you help me with X, Y, or Z? Or can you connect me with somebody who can help me with that? What are your, I mean, you reached out to me, right? Because you thought I had something interesting to say. Assuming that was because you probably saw a post of mine, right? But I didn't reach out to you and say, hey, have me on your podcast. Right. I don't need to do that. I have people who ask me to, like, probably once a week or every other week or so, to come and, do a podcast or a workshop or something. And I don't have a ton of followers either. Right. Like I have like 1,300 followers, something like that. So it's not like I'm drowning in like hundreds of thousands of followers. I get requests every day, and I have a pretty small community that I talk to, but I talk with them, and I try to spend time actually understanding what they want. I talk about things I like. I don't talk about things I think that the audience that I want to talk to wants to hear. I just talk about what I want to talk about, and then I'll let the audience come to me.
Okay. So if there is someone who wants to grow on LinkedIn to either more business connections or maybe land more clients through what you do. So if you basically were that person, you went back to 0 followers on LinkedIn, what would be your exact strategy?
So I think that's an interesting question. So it depends upon like if that person is like naturally outgoing and ready to go. But assuming that this is somebody who is kind of like ready to go out there and really be part of a community and wants to talk about things, is just start talking about what you want to talk about. So especially from an organic standpoint, don't try to look at an audience and then curate your content to them. Be kind of like do your own thing. So for me, I just love talking about demand generation and the certain ways to do it and the ways to build demand generation teams. Like if you go on there, there's on my account, you see a lot of stuff about, how do you keep people on your team happy? How do you get people employed? How do you find good talent? How do you help them build a demand generation team as a leader? And so, therefore people are going to come to me with questions like that. And I know, because I like to talk about it. However, if I thought to myself, well, I really want to go out there and I want to go talk to people in the, founders in the tech space for banking, and I kind of created content for them, I think I'd have a lot harder time. On top of the fact that, you'd fall into that issue where you get clients, in the agency kind of side of things, you would get clients who are just that. You don't get clients who have bought into your ideology and reached out to you because of your ideology. You're going to get clients who reach out to you just because you do finance tech, right? And that's kind of a recipe for disaster, especially for a marketer. Go out and be known for what you do, not so much the industry that you service.
Okay, so how do you find?
If you really want to reach like those specific groups, then put some paid media behind it, right? Like that's the next piece, is like paid media should be used to get organic content out to areas that you can't reach organically.
And there should be no call to action, just value adds.
So I think you're talking about 99% value add. From a paid media standpoint, you can certainly add call to action, but just on your day-to-day posts and the vast majority of your content, you shouldn't really need it, because if somebody wants what you're selling and they understand what you're selling, they understand who you are, reminding them to click the link isn't going to change their, intent to buy.
Okay, so you're saying that we should have a call to action, the paid ads, but not necessarily on their just regular content, correct?
Exactly. And even the paid ads, we focus a lot on like our, what we call net new audience, right? Which is people who have never seen our content before. Those call to actions are very light. It's, come talk to the community, come read our blog posts, come check out our podcast or our webinar. No signups. We're like not really gating these a whole heck of a lot. Like occasionally we'll ask for email addresses and that's it. And then when we retarget them, we focus a lot more on, hey, we know you've already seen our stuff. Come do the free trial. Are you interested? Are you ready to go for a free trial? Our biggest demand capture is what we call that. Our biggest demand capture space is in the search area space. So, a lot of people will see our content, see what our leadership is posting, and they'll go search for us intent wise. And that's where we'll get our capture, whether it's organic search or paid search they click on.
So yeah, I think I'm currently thinking of doing something similar. I'm thinking of doing like a content strategy and provide it for free. It's going to be like a document for like step by step, like all the best advice that I have, like content strategy for free. Just put it out. And the only call to action would be at the end of like, hey, if you have any feedback, just let me know your feedback. Because like, and I explain like my intention at the start, what my intention is. So they don't know like at the end, there's like a different intention. My intention from the start is, hey, I'm just giving you free advice. Then for the people who want to work with me, they will see that my advice, like I know what I'm talking about and they're going to work with me. But if you're not part of those people, you're just part of the people who want to get free value, then good for you. You're going to get free value. But for my potential customers, I wouldn't have to spend like 1 hour on the Zoom call telling them like, hi, I know what I'm doing and all of this. No, they will see it on the Word document and get value out of it without even scheduling the call. They can just get my free content strategy, where people pay me like, some people ask me like, and I'm also brand new to this, like $50 per hour for content strategy. Like you can get this for free and just go. I like people pay me more money for my services and you get it for free. So yeah, I don't know what you think about that. If it's a good idea.
No, I think it's great because you kind of hit two things when you do that. Is you are giving people the ability to do what you do. Okay, right. And the people who will do that themselves probably weren't going to be clients for you anyway. Maybe they can't afford it. They're not big enough yet, or they have a whole team already for it. But they say, oh, I really like the way that this person thinks. I want to kind of be a part of that. And then on the other hand, somebody else who's a bigger company, maybe who doesn't have a big team, but they want to start pushing content more. I'd say, okay, I want to do this. My director of sales is the person handling marketing right now. They don't have time to do it. So let's go hire this person. Let's go hire them and say like, hey, I love that content strategy piece you put out there. Can you do that for us?
Yes. Great analogy. So I think for going back to a point that if you started from the start for LinkedIn strategy, where would you find your audience? Would you go on LinkedIn search and search your target audience keywords? How would you find them?
No, so I'd follow all of the people who I think would are having conversations with my audience, and I would be incredibly active in their comment section. So find somebody who does exactly what you do, but maybe on a larger scale. right? So people who, so if you're doing content strategy, go find a huge firm that has hundreds of employees and find their CEO and the people who are most active on LinkedIn, and comment and be very active, not just to them. So don't just comment something like, hey, this is great, right? That's not a good comment, right? Hey, this is great. I really agree with X, Y, and Z. You should go and, really be a part of it. And then beyond that, talk to the individuals. They also comment, right? If somebody has 200 comments in their comment section, that's a super valuable area to be. 200 people are actively having a conversation there, and go and talk to them. Find like 5 or 6, maybe even 10 people that are in that comment section and talk to them specifically, not to the person who posted the post. If Joe Smith posted a really great piece of, content on LinkedIn, and Susie Q and Jim Bean was posting all throughout here, go have a conversation with them. Like, they're super active. They're going to be interested in being more active on other people's content as well, and you're going to get a lot more followers. Even now, like when I post every morning when I wake up, I lay in bed for a half hour and I post on LinkedIn and I comment in tons of places, and that's how I get all my, and it also is how I get my ideas too. Because you have 50 opportunities to comment. You might say like 2 things that are pretty interesting, a lot of people agree with. Oh, okay, there's your next 2 posts.
Exactly. This is what I was writing before this call on my content strategy document. It's like a few ways that you can generate content ideas is like, of course, you have Google and you can type your keyword, or like there are softwares like answerthepublic.com where you see like what people search with your specific keyword, but you can consume content and you can generate you ideas. So while you're engaging, you can read, while you're reading a post and you're commenting the answer and the part. So basically the problem that you're answering with your answer could be your post, or like maybe some insight that you see from that post that strikes your attention, and your response to them could be used as your post. So you're getting basically insights from the actual audience that you're actually targeting, mm-hmm. and you're seeing their questions, which this is very valuable to know, like what your audience is thinking.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. It's kind of all about going in there and being part of the, especially like you said, if it's somebody who's never posted before or is just getting started, like it's literally impossible to organically reach hundreds of people at once. That's not the case if you're going on somebody else's content and being part of their community. How you want to do that's up to you. Like, do you want to be the contrarian, or do you want to be kind of like, a different type of person on those posts? It's kind of up to you, whatever you think is going to get your information out. Like maybe, and you don't want to be overly competitive on this type of stuff, but maybe, there's somebody in your industry who you think is doing it wrong, but they're getting a lot of traction, or maybe you think that your way is just better. Go on there, be a respectful contrarian to their points, and it's going to generate a lot of conversation.
Exactly. So find your target audience, comment on their posts, follow every single person on their post, and follow every single target audience that you have, and then comment on their post and just send them I think just send them a connection request without a note, just like connection request and a follow. So even if they reject your connection request, you can just follow them and see their content like the next time. So your feed would be filled with the people's content that you want to consume and engage on. So no need to go on the search bar again and search for your target audience.
Yeah, and there's something, it's kind of been this trend that I've seen lately, and I haven't really hopped on it, but I actually have made a note to make sure that I do, is when I connect with people, I usually send a note like, hey, I'm really excited to be a part of your community, because it's true. Like when I connect with somebody, I get to be a part of like a new set of community with them. But something that I've seen lately is people have been sending voice messages on LinkedIn, which is great. And some people have been sending like Loom videos of just saying like, hey, so somebody sent me one about a week or 2 ago, said, hey, Adam, super excited to be connected with you. I'm so-and-so, and here's what I do. Very excited to see your content. And it was really cool. It was awesome. Like, I thought it was super interesting. I'd never seen anything like that before. And, to even further the point, I had a meeting with them to look at the solutions that they provide. And, we may end up working with them. And it's just, this person made a huge impact on my day. by sending me a video. It was like 15 seconds, right? I just hit play, boom, done. And I knew all about this person. I knew what they did, I knew who they were. I knew like what kind of value they're going to provide. They told me what they like to talk about. And similarly, somebody did the same thing with the voice messages, because LinkedIn mobile now has the ability to send voice messages. So that's something that I want to use more. And I think people should use it because it really like personalizes, the request a lot more. It personalizes the relationship.
And what do they include in the voice message and video message?
I mean, I've seen a couple different things. Some of them are a little bit more sales forward, and some of them are just like, "Hey, super excited to be a part of, your network." I think that's kind of up to you. Who are you? Like, again, it's more about being authentic, right? Than like just creating a formula. So if you really want to talk to them about your product, like, do it. Go ahead and do that. I think, if it's text, you're gonna have a hard time reaching them, meaningfully. But I think if it's a video, you have a little bit more leeway. It's so different, so interesting, and so much more engaging. But for me, like, I wouldn't sell. So like, I work for a company that sells e-commerce software. My audience is not e-commerce people. My audience is other demand gen marketers, usually, just because that's what I like to talk about. So for me, I wouldn't sell the product, right? I would go and like, "Hey, super excited talking to you guys about demand gen. Looking forward to hearing what you have to say."
Okay. So who is exactly your target audience? Marketers?
So on LinkedIn, my target audience are people whose community I want to be a part of, because I don't do any selling really on LinkedIn, because the company I work for has plenty of really good e-commerce experts to do that. But for me, my target audience is really other demand generation marketers, CMOs, CEOs. It's the type of people I want to be part of their network. For me, the biggest benefit that I'm looking for LinkedIn at this part of my life is good talent, because I'm constantly hiring people. So if I have a really great network of CMOs and CEOs and demand generation leaders, I can go, "Hey, do you know anybody for, this role? Can you help me out?" And that, referral, employees are going to be a lot better than somebody that you just get from an ad on LinkedIn. In generality, like, you get superstars from applications too, but it's great to have that network. And that's like my biggest benefit I'm looking for right now on LinkedIn. And, in different times of your life, you're going to be looking for different benefits, but your target audience can kind of be
Okay. And for your company's target audience, not exactly for your personal brand, who are exactly is your target audience?
Yeah, so our company's target audience is going to be marketers within e-commerce companies. So we kind of focus on 3 or 4 areas. The actual brand itself. So, somebody who you might purchase clothing from off of Amazon or off their website. And then another one will be what are called Amazon aggregators. So companies who buy other Amazon brands, right? And then they kind of manage it and manage the advertising for them. And then agencies who also manage the advertising for e-commerce brands.
Okay. Because I see a lot of media agencies on LinkedIn, and basically nearly every single platform, especially like LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. What would you say is their target audience? Because I heard people saying that marketers should connect with other marketers, and maybe like those marketers offer like product A, but the other marketer offer product B. So maybe they can connect together the services actually and cooperate. So should their target audience also be marketers? If not, who else is their target audience in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, sure, it can be marketers. I think that what you're saying is a really good idea, right? Make the opportunity for partnerships in the future. That happens a lot. I'm active in a couple of Slack communities, and I have people come to me all the time saying, "Hey, can you help me with this? Would you be willing to partner with me to help on this? Or do you have somebody else who can help me with this?" Which is awesome. What I kind of keep going back to is, post about what you like and kind of be a little bit more authentic and let your audience come to you. The things that you're going to get out of them are going to happen, whether you know what they're going to be or not. Like, to me, it's I want to be on more podcasts and do more talks and stuff like that. So I was just like, I'm just going to talk about the things that I want to talk about. Somebody's going to be interested like you and wants to hear more about what I have to say, and it's working, right? Like, I'm talking about what I want to talk about. I'm getting the result I want. I'm getting really good referrals for potential employees. I'm getting people coming in to me and saying, "Hey, I want you on my podcast, or I want you to run a workshop with me." And that's exactly what I wanted to get out of LinkedIn, at least this year. That's like my main goal, is I want to talk more. I want to get better at talking to people, because I tend to talk really fast and I tend to kind of ramble a lot. And I'm trying to like get better at it, which is just by doing it.
Yes, exactly. And I saw a post, I'm not sure from where, and they said, "Hey, marketers, Like your target audience on LinkedIn is not the CEOs, it's the CMOs. But I'm like, yes, but for small businesses, I think
if that
it is the CEOs for small businesses.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I guess I mean, you're right. Your target audience. So I think people get a little bit too stuck in titles and segments. So think of the persona instead. Like, how do you? So if you're thinking, okay, and I'll get into what I call the X factor, which is the way that I determine this is who's my target audience. The X factor is if my audience understands X, they'll be more likely to purchase my product. And there are two variables there, audience and X. So my audience is somebody who's, so for intent, I'll use IntentWise as, for example, my audience is an e-commerce marketer who wants to have better outcomes with their paid media retail, or the retail paid media. And if they understand that, Amazon media buying is going to become much more difficult, and there's a more efficient way to do it, they will be more likely to buy IntentWise. So instead of using a title there as the person, as the audience, I use somebody who has a specific problem. And if you're talking about a Fortune 500 company, the CEO doesn't have the problem. The CMO probably doesn't even have the problem. It's probably a senior level manager below the CMO, the VP of content, the VP of demand gen, the VP of creative, whatever it might be. So you need to, instead of looking for a title, you need to address a problem or a persona more accurately.
Okay, but for small businesses, it's most likely the owner of the business.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and that's one thing that you have to, and then that's how you start to, and then it's called segmentation, right? So you have a ton of people who have the same problem, but it's across a ton of different titles and types of people. And you might separate that out. Like if you are going after a small business, somebody who has 10 employees with a revenue of between $3 and $5 million a year, that's a segment, but they fall within that persona, because that persona might also be the VP of demand generation at a company with 300 employees that makes 1 billion, that does $1 billion a year revenue. Exact same persona, completely different segments, and the messaging is going to be significantly different.
Yes, exactly. So people should take that into consideration. There's no like one size fits all. This is right. What I cannot hate, but don't like about generalized advice is that it's because it's overgeneralized and you don't know with what context they're giving this advice, then it applies to no one. Because if they're telling you, hey, keep working hard, why would you tell Bill Gates to keep working hard at basketball to become an NBA player? Makes no sense. Of course, I'm using an extreme example right here just to make my point very clear and stuff, but it just doesn't make sense to give overgeneralized advice. This is why, like, I see these TikTok videos and they give advice. Hey, well, it's one piece of advice you would give to people who are into crypto. Okay, don't quit. Why would you not quit or something? If you're like a brilliant mind in like technology and you like it, but you're into this stuff because people told you to be into this stuff and this person told you not to quit, then why would you do that?
Yeah, that's why, like, if you look at my LinkedIn and my TikTok, it's usually extremely specific. And my TikTok is very like focused on like entry-level marketers and giving them advice into how to excel in the field, but it's super specific. It's my message is always how to do this really specific thing, or here's a couple of tips to do this really specific thing. Or like my post today on LinkedIn, here is how you, I forget exactly what the wording was, but something along the lines of like, here's how you show, I'll just read it to you because I got it over here. Trusting the process. So I did 3 tips to educate your leadership on the process and set yourself up for success. That's super specific. Almost anybody can use that, but extremely specific, right? It's about, hey, you're a marketer. You have some sort of, process that you want to put in place to get your marketing to where it needs to, basically a marketing plan. Here is how you present that to your leadership in a way that will help you and help them. That's super, super specific. A lot of people can use that. But then on the other hand, if they can't, that's totally fine too. Like maybe that person's not my audience.
Yes, I think you said before that you create content on what you want to create and you don't make it specific in a sense, but I want you to clarify this point, but now you're making it specific in another sense. So
Mhm.
please clarify what you're saying, that be specific, but don't be specific.
Exactly. So I'm saying don't be specific about your audience, about who you are trying to reach.
Mm-hmm.
So don't go into it and say, hey, for the next 3 months, I want to reach, you know, I don't know, B2B SaaS technology marketers who do affiliate marketing. Like, just talk about the things that you want to talk about. Especially this goes more towards people who are just starting to get into it, right? Like, do your thing. Talk about the thing that you're really good at, that you really like. I love demand generation. I talk about demand generation. Specifically, I talk about a lot more things when it comes to being employed and moving forward in demand generation, building teams. So I get really specific in that one thing that I really like. But it's not really it's not to hit different audiences.
Okay.
Because I think that I want to tell something really specific. Also, I find that super generalized advice doesn't do particularly well on LinkedIn, at least not for my audience. I think if you already have a huge audience, that's fine. But it's also when you can see the difference in quality of content when somebody has 200,000 followers versus like 2,000 is significantly different. You tend to learn a lot more from those people with less followers because they're talking about something that's like really focused on, their expertise.
Mm-hmm. Do you spend any time on tasting different platforms' attention? For example, have you tested like TikTok ads, like YouTube pre-roll ads? Do you spend any time on that?
Yeah. So something that I've learned over the years is, at least, well, certainly more so now than it used to be, is you really need to create content individually for each platform. So, and what that means is basically don't take a video ad on LinkedIn and just slap it on a pre-roll for YouTube. Like, it's just not going to work. You need to understand what people want on each of those platforms and then act on that, because it'll just look bad. And that kind of extends into what I give the most advice is focus on like 1 or 2 platforms when you get started. If you have a team of 3 people, don't be on 10 platforms. You're gonna like absolutely go crazy just trying to post across 10 things. It's all gonna be really generalized. You're gonna repurposing things is good, but not just copy and pasting. So for us at IntentWise, we're focusing really heavily on LinkedIn, TikTok, and a little bit of Instagram, but we have a small team.
Okay. You want to pick that?
Yeah, no, it's good. So we're just focusing on a couple of things, and we're going to get really good at them. And then as we add more people to the team, we might get more and more as we go. So that's kind of the type of advice that I give people there is, be on different areas, test them, but make sure you're not just copying and pasting content.
Mm-hmm. So I know that you have to go, so let's do one more question, if that's fine.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So how do you discover new underpriced attention?
New underpriced attention. That's really interesting question. I think it's that testing that you just mentioned, is taking the testing, but going all in when you do test, and don't just kind of, half-ass it, for lack of a better phrase. When we're doing TikTok, we're literally hiring somebody to just do TikTok. Like, basically 90% of this person's day is going to be TikTok and creating short form content for TikTok and Instagram Reels, which have very similar types of audiences. So when you have something new, jump on it, go as hard as you possibly can on that thing, and see if it works for you. Anyway, it's not going to always work, and that's totally fine. But just make sure that when you do it, you go full into it.
Yes, because it's like trying to see if you're good at basketball, but only doing, I don't know, drills. Let's say, I don't know a lot about basketball, but only doing drills, let's say. So you're only practicing one area in your basketball, like skills and stuff. Like, you gotta go full in and do your best to see like if you're actually good at basketball, and if you actually see enough improvement to get what you want to be, to see like if you're good enough. It's amazing. Yep. So yeah, anyway, thank you for coming on. I would like to know, like, where can people find you and stuff, so they can contact you for any reason?
Yeah, so LinkedIn obviously is a great place for me. I have a blue background, Adam Shaw, and so just look for that on there. I work at IntentWise, so check out intentwise.com. I see a lot of the emails that come in through there. Let's say TikTok at OMG, it's Adam Shaw, And that's the same for Instagram as well. I don't really post much on Instagram, but I do occasionally.
Great. Thank you for coming on. It was a great episode. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.